Hello, everyone. How you going there? Wow, this is cool. I get to talk to you during the day. Normally it's at night time that I get to talk to you, so I might leave my glasses on. Alrighty, so can I please have a thumbs up, or can someone let me know that you can hear me and that you can see me? So I'll just wait till everyone jumps on and then we'll get started. Alrighty, here we go. I can see some crew jumping on. So hopefully all of your comments will come up soon and you can hear me and we're ready to rock and roll. Alrighty. Here we go. Excellent. Everyone's ready to go. Hello, everyone. Now, can you let me know? I really want to wear my blue blockers today. So hi, Monica, you're there. I really would like to wear my blue blockers today because you know what? I'm a bit tired from all the crazy netball antics yesterday, taking my daughter Maya to her netball carnival. And then obviously we had a wonderful session last night. So if the reflection isn't too bad, I might leave them on. So my brain is at full capacity today to help you guys. All right. So in this session, we are going to be just doing Q&A. So I don't have any awesome graphics or any awesome diagrams or anything like that planned for you. There's not going to be any sort of teaching as such. It's mainly just me responding to your questions and also questions that we've seen coming up over the course of the last, sort of week or so since we started last week. So if you've got questions, please pop them up into the comments there and I will address them. And I've got a few that I want to get started with. But yeah, this is your time to basically tap into me and my brain and all the other crew, the Culture Wellness team, and to ask us questions. So let's kick off. So I've got my first lot of questions here. And funnily enough, the first question that I'm going to address today is my most favorite. So Claire, who is a lovely friend of mine from way back when I lived in South Australia, has asked a question about what do you eat when you're on a hike? So what are some of those, keto sort of foods that you can eat when you're out hiking, when you're camping? What do you take with you when you're not sort of taking muesli bars anymore and you're not taking lots of fruit, or you're not taking chocolate or big bag of what we used to call scroggin, which is sort of the nuts and dried fruits and all of those kinds of things. So yeah, let's kick off with that because it's a really nice question and it's nice and inspiring. So when I go hiking, I do overnight hikes, I do long distance hikes, and I also just do day hikes. So anywhere from sort of couple of hours right through to, a week when I'm out with my backpack. And so the most important thing is that having really, really great thermoses. So this is the big thing for me. Now, this isn't just hiking. This is also every day. Oh, Kathy's there. Anita's there. Sarah, Kylie, Debbie. Hello, everyone. Yeah, I want to just remind you that the tools that you have are really important. So one of the first things that I bought when I started eating this way was an amazing thermos. It's double insulated. It's got that, awesome sort of wall in it that's going to keep things nice and hot. And now I have a variety of different sizes, from my big sort of massive big one for hot water that's around about a litre. Then I have a 500 ml one, and then I have a sort of little 375 ml one, and then I've got little cups that I use. And that thermos is fantastic because it means that I can basically have anything when I'm out hiking. So when you go into eating Kickstarter Foods, so that's the Culture Wellness Program, Kickstarter Foods, when you're really investigating what foods are going to suit me, when you're eliminating some foods, you don't want to be defined by, it's got to be quick and it's got to be easy and it's got to be in a wrapper or a packet or, all of those kinds of things. You can get really creative. So when you've got that thermos, it means that, you can heat up your leftovers, put them in the thermos, and then you've got your lunch already ready to go. Don't have to have the usual sandwich or the roll up, or, when I used to go hiking, it was always the mountain bread with the tuna, with the avocado or the salami. Like, there's always been kind of those classics that we have. But having a thermos means you can have your butter chicken with some cauliflower rice. You can have a soup. You can have a stew. You can have a bulletproof coffee in there with some collagen, some gelatin. You can basically just do whatever you want. You can just take anything. And it just means that the options are endless. Even when I'm out hiking for long days, so multiple day hiking, I still take my thermos, and then I will actually take dehydrated meals with me. And I even sometimes do this on a day hike as well. So you can make a curry, for example. You can put it in your dehydrator, and I love using an Excalibur dehydrator. You can put it in your dehydrator, and it basically brings the meal down to nothing. I put it in a little Snaplock bag, and then when I'm ready to eat, I just boil up some water, pop that dehydrated food into my thermos, fill it up with water, let it hydrate. So let all that water to go back in and hydrate the meal. And then you've got this amazing soup or stew or curry or beans and rice, whatever you want to be having. You've got this incredible meal ready to go. It's just so quick and easy. So a thermos, a dehydrator, is going to make the world of difference for these sorts of things. Now, boiled eggs are awesome. Jerky is awesome. Quiche, like little mini quiches, are amazing. Fat bomb muffins are wonderful. There's so many different options that you can take, whether it be on a day hike or a multi-day hike. And depending on where you're at, so whether you can have some seeds, for example, and you might do make a seed bliss ball with some fermented dates. There's so many snacks, there's so many things that you can do. So, but the dehydrator, so Megan, that's mind-blowing, dehydrating a homemade curry. Yes, Megan, it's all literally I will go away for 10 days and I will dehydrate all of my meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I'll have them in this little sack with me. And I am completely ready to go and can wander in the bush with my little thermos and, heating up my water and having my dehydrated meal of what I want to eat, rather than having dehydrated meals that, that you can purchase, but they're full of crap. So it makes the world of difference. So it's really, really cool. But yeah, there's some great beef jerkies around now. So, or make your own with your dehydrator. I like the brands Barbell, or I like the brand Kui. They're the great, sort of two great brands of beef jerky that I like. If you want to buy barbells, my dear friend Kirsty has this incredible shop called Javita. And if you want to purchase anything through Javita, she's curated all these, really amazing products. And if you use the code Cultured Wellness, you get 15% off. So you can buy anything from the makeup that I use, which is Inica. So most of you, probably some of you that know me know I barely wear any makeup at all. But if I do wear it, I use Inica. So you can get your makeup and you can get your beef jerky and you can get so many amazing things on Kirsty's online shop. So you can certainly buy that. So Javita, and also the code is Cultured Wellness. Hey, Di, you're there. So on the go water filters, great question. So yes, I use two brands, either Life Straw, which is an awesome brand. I know that every single product in that brand is completely, 99.8% effective against parasites, about protozoas, bacteria, and is really good at effectively removing chlorine, heavy metals, the full works. So you can use Life Straw, and they have a variety of different sizes and what you need. When I'm hiking, I use something called an MSR base camp, or MSR sort of home base, which is a filtration system that I can get about 1 litre per minute coming through. And also I use the Onka water bottle, which has a carbon filter in it. And so like when I went to the Solomon Islands, for example, or where I'm going anywhere really, you can basically fill up the water bottle, put the lid on, and the lid has the carbon filter in it. And then as you're drinking through that, the water goes through the carbon filter and eliminates protozoas and all of those kinds of things. So there's just a few examples of the things that I use. With the Onka brand, it is plastic, even though it's BPA free. The bottle itself is plastic, but there are situations where I need to use that if I need to have it lightweight and I can't carry stainless steel with me. And so I will choose that. Or certainly if I'm going, traveling or so forth. So, I've got pretty into it, and I just have a few for all my different options of what I want to use. And I'm very proud that during the floods, Culture Wellness was able to donate quite a significant amount of money towards buying a really big Life Straw filtration system for those around, that have suffered from the floods, and they didn't literally have water for weeks. And so that was really, really cool to be able to do that. All right, I'm just going to have a bit of my broth. I'm having a nice cup of broth. Okay, so filtration is really important when you're traveling. Doesn't even matter if you just go. If I go to a hotel room and I'm staying like in a city, I still filter my water. Or if I don't have a water filter with me, I'll, make sure I can try and access good water. Water is everything. Our body is made up of microbes. We are about 70% microbial community, and those microbes are viruses, they're bacteria, they're fungi, and we're also only about 30%, DNA. And so when we're looking at what we're putting inside our bodies, or when we're looking at what we're drinking and nurturing ourselves, we want to be doing it with that, kind of direction of we're mostly organisms. And so we don't want to be drinking chlorinated water from the tap when we know that chlorine actually kills off bacteria. It kills off microbes. That's the whole point of chlorine. So if we're drinking chlorine, if we're showering in chlorine from the taps, then we're effectively killing ourselves off because we're made of microbes. So certainly something that we don't want to be doing. Okay, so we've looked into some of those hiking snacks, and, right down to when I'm hiking, I even just take like a massive tub of butter with me so I can put it into my thermos and make some bulletproofs. I add it into all sorts of things so to give me energy. So you're reshaping how you perceive getting energy when you're out doing something. Takes a while. So when we go and do something for the day, we perceive that, we need carbs, we need sugar, we need fruit, we need chocolate, all these kinds of things. But when you're eating a ketogenic diet, you need fat for fuel. And, it might be that if you're not on Kickstarter program at that point in time, you have almond butter, or you have your butter there to add to a hot drink. You've got your avocados, you've got extra olive oil on your salad, or you've got some tuna with you that's got extra olive oil added to it. So really, really, really awesome to make sure that you're getting those good quality fats in. So we're still on water filters, which is great. And do you have a whole house water filtration system? So Marion, you're on the Sunshine Coast, so am I. So currently my family is renting, and so we have filtration systems on different parts of the house rather than the whole house. One day when we are able to buy our own home, then yes, absolutely, we will do that. So a lot of you may know our history. We had to sell our house, unfortunately, to pay for Noah's transplant and for his therapy. So we're kind of crawling back from some significant financial trauma with regards to, looking after Noah and having all the resources that we needed for him to heal. So we're getting there slowly but surely. So We have filters on our showers. We have filters on our drinking water. We have a filter on our bath. So it basically everywhere that we either drink or put water on ourselves, we have filters. And they're great filters. They're really easily accessible. They're not expensive. You only have to replace them about once a year. And so they're a great option if you're renting. We have a filter in the kitchen under the sink to make sure that, the kitchen water is filtered. And then I also have a Zazen filter on my bench. So that's what I drink from. So that remineralized water, that's what I drink from. And then if I'm, filling up the kettle to cook my veggies or those, just sort of your everyday needing water, then I will use the other filter that I've got on the kitchen sink. Alrighty, so let me just go back here. So with regards to recommending filter systems, there are there's a website that I just absolutely love, and you can actually call them and you can talk to them specifically about what you need, what your house has got, the water pressure, all of those sorts of things. So the Water Shop is wonderful. So you can look them up. They're literally just the Water Shop, and they are just really, really helpful, really informative. And so, and there's also one called Pure Water, I believe, another online website called Pure Water. And they are incredible as well at providing support. So I would use them because they will be able to kind of work more with your particular situation. Okay. Yes, I love my Zazen filter too, Suzanne. Like I literally noticed the most massive difference when I started drinking remineralized water. I just wasn't so thirsty all the time. I just noticed it. I really noticed a difference. So I certainly won't be going back anymore. We have the Zazen water filter. Oh, cool. I think Candice is there. She's just popped it up. So we've got the Zazen water filter there. So you can buy that on the Culture Wellness Shop. So you know that that's exactly the same one that I use. Alrighty, so Suzanne, this is a great question. I'm about to order the ferments, but I'm a bit scared. I won't do it. Is there anyone you recommend to buy, or is it really that easy? I'm very well about getting older and want to make sure that my menopause is as smooth as possible. Go you, Suzanne. I want it to be as smooth as possible for you to do as well. Okay, so I get this question pretty much all day long, every day, and the Culture Wellness team do as well, is I'm scared to start the ferments. I'm too scared to buy them and then have them just sitting in the fridge and I don't get around to it. So it really, 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 really is so simple. So please don't go out and buy ferments because they cost a lot and you're not sure about the bacteria that they're using to ferment them. And they're also, expensive. So it's much easier to make it at home. You get a lot more bang for your buck when you make big, 2-liter batches of yogurt or kefir. And it's just so simple. If you are unsure, don't forget that I've recorded those really basic videos. So literally the how-to of how to make the ferment. So if you haven't looked at those how-to videos yet, please look at them. It's literally, you're in with me in the kitchen, my old kitchen. We've, just moved to this new house, but in my old kitchen, and I literally take you through and guide you step by step to show you how easy it is. So I know that some people actually get everything out. They've got their jar out, they've got their coconut cream if they're making a yogurt, and they've got the actual packet of the culture, and they will get it all ready and actually do it with me at exactly that time. So, if you are a little bit nervous, just watch the videos, watch it back a couple of times, and you'll be good to go. It really, really is that easy. Okay. So the other thing is that they do blow up. So thank you, Megan, for putting that in there. They do blow up, and that's to be expected. So we want the cultures to be active when they arrive, so then they can they can start the fermenting process for you. So if it's expanded a little bit, and even if it's leaked a little bit into the outer bag, that's to be expected. That shows that you've got an active fermented, an active culture, and we want it's going to do its job. So don't worry about that. Someone's written there, I have started fermenting and it's ridiculously easy. Yes, it is. And Suzanne, you've added them to the cart and they're just sitting there. Just go for it. It's so much fun. It's so much fun. Okay. Yes. I'm a Zazen snob too. Absolutely. Okay. Let's keep going. And let's keep going into some questions that I've got here. So whilst we're on there, I thought I would just touch on wild ferments versus the cultured wellness ferments. It's another thing that I think it's really important for us to nail and get an understanding of that. So a wild ferment is a ferment that has used either kefir grains, a brine, it's used a SCOBY, for example, if it's a kombucha, and it's used a wild medium to get started. And so you don't really know what bacteria you're fermenting, and you don't really know what the outcome of that ferment's going to be with regards to the quality of the probiotics and how that's going to support your body. What kind of yeasts are in there, what kind of bacteria are in there, what's dominant and what isn't growing. And so wild ferments are awesome if you're quite well and if you don't have autoimmune conditions, if you don't have histamine issues, if you don't have migraines, if you don't have rashes and all those kinds of things. So wild ferments are fantastic. But if you guys are anything like me, when I discovered fermented foods, I thought it was like the answer to everything. I was so excited to make my first ferment. And my first ferment was making a sauerkraut. And so I got my salt and I got my cabbage and pounded it down and I squeezed it through and I got this big jar and I put it all in the jar and I pushed down and made all this brine and I put the lid on and I left it there for 6 to 8 weeks, and I was so excited. And I thought, this is it. Like, this is going to be the game changer that I want it to be, because I'd heard so much about fermenting and how wonderful it was. And then pretty shortly after, like I'm talking sort of 5-10 minutes after, I started scratching. I started getting a headache. All of my joints started aching and I got really sore. I got really tired. Like, I started yawning. I felt really, I used to call it drop off, like this. I can't actually stay awake and I'm going to fall asleep. And what I didn't know at that point, what I didn't understand was this concept of what a wild ferment is and what a cultured ferment is. So in the process of making that sauerkraut, I had made a wild ferment. And so I had fermented out and made, fermented bacteria strains that I didn't know. And so there was different types of yeast, there was different types of bacteria. And so there was also histamine forming strains in there. And my body at that particular time couldn't handle histamine. I had lots of gut issues that were causing lots of histamine within my body, let alone me eating histamine, which was making, filling up the bucket so much and making things worse. And so I then came to this conclusion that I was allergic to fermented foods and that I couldn't handle them. And, this whole I thought this was going to be the answer. And now and I kind of beat myself up. It's like, oh, great. Now I can't even have a fermented food. My body is so horrible and so bad. And there's no hope for me. And I was really, really down, really, really down. But that's kind of how my journey of me developing the culture wellness culture started, because I kind of went back in and I was like, well, how can I self-combust to a food that is so good for you, that's so healthy, that's all through the literature, that, everyone talks about being so beneficial? Like, why would I react to that? What's going on? And that's when I started to understand and read about particular strains of, fermented foods. And that's when I started to understand, hang on a minute, there are bacteria strains that can cause histamine in a ferment, and there are bacteria strains that can downregulate histamine in a ferment. There are types of yeast in a ferment that are going to be really beneficial to my SIBO picture, and there's going to be yeast strains that are not going to be helpful for me at this point in time. And so I really started to unpack and kind of collate and learn about all of these strains, which one in the literature showed were beneficial for autoimmune conditions, for cognitive function, for rebuilding leaky gut, for down-regulating histamine, and which strains were going to help me digest my food and get me back on track. And then I learned about something called a cultured ferment. And I was like, oh, wow, I'm onto something now. This is so cool. And I learned that a cultured ferment is where you take specific strains. So you choose the strains and you use a culture to kickstart that fermenting process. And so you're only fermenting the particular strains that you want to ferment. So you only culture those strains and not wild strains. And so when I learned that, I was like, oh, hang on a minute. Maybe my body isn't self-combusting to ferments, and maybe I can be bold and brave again. Maybe I can try it again and give fermented foods another go with a bit more of an understanding about the power of ferments and what they can do and how awesome they are and how they will work for my body at this particular time with me being so unwell. And so off I went and I started culturing and I started playing around and creating crazy science labs in my house. And that's how I developed the Culture Wellness Cultures, which, there's literally nothing like them in the world. They're so cool. I'm so proud of them. And we do post them all over the world. And they are amazing. And they're in a coconut, medium because I couldn't handle dairy at the time because I was so unwell. And there's no preservatives in them and there's no additives and there's nothing in them because I couldn't handle it and Noah couldn't handle it. And even the cultures that I use are so clean. They're not grown on maltodextrin. They're not, there's nothing added to them that's going to cause a problem. And so I got to this, process of elimination where I found that the particular strains that I had chosen in conjunction with the beneficial yeast that I had chosen was kind of like this sweet spot for fermenting your own food and culturing it, and for being able to make a ferment that meant that your detoxification pathways weren't struggling, that your body could modulate the histamine and in fact down-regulate it from eating the fermented food, and that I didn't need to be scared of fermented foods anymore. And then, wow, it just went from there. I started with the kefir, which many of you've probably had. And so I started making the kefir, and then I went on to creating the yogurt. And then from the yogurt, I went to the apple one. And then from the apple one, I went to the orange juice. And from the orange juice culture, I went into making the diversity dough culture. So we could make sourdough breads and we could make pizza doughs and, sort of cheese and bacon scrolls and so many cool things, and the fermented apple pies and all the cool stuff that we do now, and all the cookbooks and everything that came from these humble cultures was just because my family and my son's family, our bodies just couldn't handle it. We couldn't cope. And so, it's just this evolving beast really of how the cultures started. But the nitty-gritty where it all began was that I couldn't handle wild ferments and I needed a cultured ferment. So now, yes, I can eat wild ferments. My body has come back into balance and I can handle the histamines and I don't get headaches and I don't break out in a rash and, all of those kinds of things. But I still make my own cultures because I just really need to know that those strains are going into my body, they're beneficial strains and they're right for me. So yeah, so that's kind of how that started, and the difference between the cultured ferments and the wild ferments. Oh, cool, Sue. You're cutting up your cabbage right now. That's great. Okay. Yes, be sus on kombucha. Be very sus on kombucha. Yes, Megan, it is a journey and you just have to keep learning. And, I'm so glad you've popped that up. So Megan's got her comment here that, it's a journey and we just have to keep learning and trying things and figuring it out. And it's so true. You are in charge. You are the only one driving your health journey. Yes, we're here for you at Culture Wellness, but, and we can help you answer those questions and find pieces to the puzzle and all those sorts of things. But healing and, in fact, life in general is not static. And it's not always this is the answer and this is to be true and this is the only way forward or this is the only thing that we know. So it is very cool when you hit a roadblock. And I always embrace it now, didn't used to, but I always embrace when I hit a roadblock, because I now reflect and go, okay, what do I need to learn from this? What lessons are there? What do I need to reshape? Who do I turn to? Who's my crew that I need to learn in this space that I can, gather information and knowledge from so I can move forward? So, and I literally would do that on a daily basis about everything that I love about life. So, and our health is absolutely one of those things. Okay, let me just go back here. Sorry, I had a little pause then. There was someone asking a question about sweet potato, but I can't find the original question. So if you asked the sweet potato question, can you please pop it back up again? Because I can't see it here. All right, so while we're waiting on the sweet potato question, hang on a sec, it may have popped up. Oh, yes, so Kylie, that was you. Can you just ask the question again? Because I don't know what it was about the sweet potato question. All right, so whilst Kylie pops that up, I'm going to answer another. It said, what does it mean if you are craving sweet potato? Okay, well, Kylie, this is actually, well, thank you. That might be you, Alicia. So it's actually a good kind of segue, because there was another question in the community group about, I've been in ketosis for 3 weeks. I'm feeling awesome. My inflammation's gone down. I'm feeling really good, but my muscles are feeling really heavy. I'm starting to, notice that my muscle strength is down. And so it's really, really important, and this ties in with the sweet potato being a carb. It's really important to measure your ketones to make sure that you're actually in ketosis, because you may be eating a low carbohydrate diet. You may be eating a ketogenic diet, but you may not actually be in ketosis. So that's the first thing. Please measure that. If you're finding that you've got muscle strength issues, and if you're craving things like you are, Kylie, if you're craving sweet potato, make sure that you're in ketosis. Now, the next thing to double check, if your muscles are feeling fatigued and you don't have any strength in there, check that you're actually having enough carbohydrates. So as I've gone through before, being in a ketogenic state doesn't mean protein only and then fats only and zero carbohydrates. That's not what this is about, and it's certainly not what the therapeutic cultured wellness ketogenic diet is. Our muscles still need to have glycogen stores in there. They still need to have some glucose in there. So those glycogen stores, so they can actually move, they can run, they can have energy. And so what I often see, especially with women, I see it all the time with women, is they go into ketosis and they are actually in ketosis, so they've measured it, but they think that they can only eat, proteins and fats, or they're trying to lose weight, and so they go really low carb, or they're really tired, and so they have lots of bulletproof coffees or these kinds of things, and skip on the vegetables, and they actually skip on the carbohydrates from those vegetables, and they get the really tired legs and fatigue and sore muscles and can't barely walk up the stairs, all those kinds of things. And so make sure that you're actually having your vegetables. Make sure that you're actually having a balanced therapeutic ketogenic diet. And that was like one of the myths that I talked about in the live number 1, that, we're busting these myths. It's not just fats and protein. We need to, nutrient up and make sure that we've got all those nutrients in there. So make sure you're looking at that. Now, so that could be why you're craving the sweet potato, is because you actually just need some carbs. You've trained too hard. You've exercised too hard. You're possibly in a state in your menstrual cycle where you need a little bit more glucose. There are many factors that are going to impact and on whether you need that glucose or not. And so these are all the things that when you work on program with us that we can coach you on and teach you on, and then we can go into possibly, are you too deep into ketosis? So your ketones are too high, and therefore you actually need some sweet potato to add some glycogen stores in. I recently had a wonderful client that would get into ketosis so quickly. We'd measure her ketones, and she'd be up to 3 millimole in her blood ketone measurement. And she needed to have daily sweet potato. She needed to have rice, cooked and cooled rice. And then she needed to have some diversity dough, a couple of slices of diversity dough. And that kept her at that kind of 1 millimole keto range, which is that sweet spot for women. And she needed quite a high amount of carbs. Now, for me, at my age, with my genetics and all of those sorts of things, I absolutely could not have that amount of carbs. I would be out of ketosis. I'd be binge eating. I'd be so inflamed. My brain would just fall out of my butt. And there's no way I could do talks like this or keep up with my life, which is fun and exciting and busy and crazy and all of those kinds of things. There's absolutely no way that I could do that with that amount of carbs. So this is where it's important to be guided and where it's important to understand what the ketogenic diet means for you and to test, don't guess. So I think, I think Alicia's there helping out with how you test. But you can either use urine strips from the chemist, and they will be effective for around about 2 to 3 months. And then you won't be able to measure those ketones on the strip anymore, the urine strip, because your body's not weeing them out. You're actually becoming adapted. You're utilizing those ketones, and you're not weeing them out anymore. So you can be in ketosis and them not measuring on the urine sticks. So then you go from urine sticks to blood. So you can use a special blood monitor to check your ketones. And I highly recommend when you get that blood monitor to check your ketones, you also check your blood glucose levels. They're both really important to measure. So I use the Optimum Neo Freestyle blood glucose and ketone monitor. That's my favorite. It's my go-to. The pink strips are for measuring ketones, and the blue strips are for measuring blood glucose. If you've got an aversion to the pinprick and the blood, or if you've got kids, then there's also a breath ketone measurement, which has an app that goes with it, and that's called ketonics. And that's a really, really good one that you literally just blow in, because we can measure ketones through our breath as well. And then it will give you a reading up on the app. It will, you've got to, cue your app in, and you'll be able to see what your ketones are. And so don't promise me you won't make the mistake of jumping in and like, yeah, I'm in ketosis, and never measure it and never actually quantify it or understand it. Please make sure that you know if you're in ketosis and you know that you're making energy. Otherwise, this is why so many people are like, ketosis, I've been in ketosis and it didn't work for me. And I will say, did you measure it? Did you track it? Do you know what your body was doing? What was your blood glucose levels? How do you know what your body was doing when you were in ketosis? And that's only when I can really start to talk to someone about, what's happening with them and what's going on with being in ketosis. Okay, so the next question that was coming up is, and thank you, the girls are there putting up the links. That is my favorite, the freestyler. And also, I'll go into glucose at another time. I just got lost again where I was with the questions. Di, that's so cool. If I was going to a deserted island, I'd take my culture wellness ferments. I probably would too. I love that. That's so cool. So just going down here, going through all of the questions. Here we are. We're up to all right. So the next thing that I want to address, which is really, really important, is this age-old rhetoric that's driving me insane, and we need to address it, is that if I go on a ketogenic diet and I eat, good quality fats, then it's going to drive my cholesterol up. My cholesterol is going to be affected. And someone's written there, I'm still confused about how a keto diet would affect my high cholesterol. I'm concerned extra fats will make my cholesterol levels higher. Okay, so let's now understand that fats and cholesterol, the age-old kind of understanding that if we eat fat, our cholesterol goes up, that is a premise that has been debunked about 30 years ago. Eating good quality fats, now this is not donuts and this is not hot chips fried in horrible, vegetable oils, but good quality fats will not make your cholesterol go up. The whole concept of fats and giving us heart disease and good quality fats giving us, clogging up our arteries and making our cholesterol go up is absolutely not true. And we really have to understand this and bravely and boldly go forward and understand the current research and the current literature and the current knowledge in this space. If you're seeing a doctor that tells you that if you eat good quality fat, your cholesterol is going to go up, it's time to get a doctor that is up with the latest knowledge. Unfortunately, that doctor may have studied at med school 30 years ago when they were teaching that, and the new literature, the new tests, the new research studies weren't out, and they have not updated or upskilled since then. We also know that, unfortunately, doctors only get about 12 hours of nutrition lecture and study over the whole course of their medical degree. And so they're not actually qualified to give nutrition advice because they don't study it. They don't actually have that as part of, their coursework. So it's not fair to expect them to give us advice on diet because it's not their strength. It's not what they studied. And a lot of them don't have time to actually go and study nutrition and the complexities of nutrition. So I always love to tell a story about the fact that, interestingly, only in the 40s or 50s, there was literally ads that were put in the paper of pregnant women smoking. And those ads said smoking is good for pregnant women because it brings down your stress levels and helps you to be a better mum for when baby comes along. I am not joking. I've seen lots of these ads floating around, and I should I should bring them up. I don't know if the girls can find them now, but you quick Google search and you'll find them. And so we look at that now and go, oh my gosh, like as if you would smoke when you're pregnant. But we know that now not to be true. As a society, we've all moved forward in this space of understanding that smoking when you're pregnant is not okay and it's not cool. And we know that there's issues there. But, we're also at this stage where we're kind of moving through this understanding and coming out the other side of the fact that it's not the fat that is causing the heart conditions and causing the cholesterol issues. It's the sugar and the carbohydrates. And so give us another 30 years. It's taking this long for everyone to catch up. But give us another 30 years and we will absolutely be at a point where we will look back and go, I cannot believe our doctors were telling us to not eat fat. I cannot believe our doctors were telling us that to bring down our cholesterol. So it's been debunked. There's numerous research papers about it. All of the cutting edge integrative doctors and integrative nutritionists and clinicians in this space would absolutely balk at the fact that, a fat drives up cholesterol. So we need to move past that. So hopefully that's cleared things up for you. But let's talk about it so I can actually give you some solid, groundwork and understanding. If your cholesterol is high, please go and find your test results and look at your triglycerides. So in your cholesterol results, you should have your HDL, which is your hero cholesterol. It's the one we want. You should have your LDL, which is your loser cholesterol. It's the one we don't want. And you should also have your triglycerides, which is really the factor that we want to look at when we're talking about how's my heart going? Are we all cool? Do we need to do something? So it's not your total cholesterol that we want to understand. It's the breakdown. So if your doctor's told you have to go on statins and have a low fat diet, but he's only given you or she's only given you a number, that's not good enough. You want to know, well, what are my triglycerides? What's my LDL? What's my HDL? Why do you feel like my cholesterol's gone up? What's the reason behind this? Let's investigate. So your triglycerides need to be under 1. So if you've got your blood tests out, are they under 1? So very, very, very important. If your loser cholesterol is absolutely skyrocketing and through the roof, our body makes loser cholesterol, LDL, because cholesterol is like the big fluffy pillow that wraps around us when our body is inflamed, when we're fighting an infection, when we're chronically inflamed. So if our LDL has suddenly gone up in the last 5 months, if our cholesterol LDL has gone up, then let's not just go, I need to go on statins and have a low-fat diet. Let's go, well, why? Have I had COVID? Have I had a parasitic infection? Am I under stress? Did I break my ankle? Am I underslept? What happened? Why is my body inflamed? Because that's why your LDL goes up, because your body is inflamed, and our natural response to an inflammation in the body is to make more cholesterol to put the fluffy blanket around it to look after ourselves. And then the HDL, which is the good one, we want plenty of that because guess what? We make our hormones from cholesterol. So if you are on a low-fat diet, you're not going to be making any hormones. So going through menopause on a low-fat diet is a nightmare. Going through menopause, perimenopausal on a low-fat diet is a nightmare. Going through puberty on a low-fat diet is a nightmare. So we don't want to restrict these things, okay? So it's very, very, very concerning that there's not more information around the breakdown of your cholesterol and as to the why. So you guys know I love a thumbs up situation here. So I would love you to put your thumbs up and let me know, did you actually know that your hormones were made from cholesterol? Did you know that? And did you know that to make progesterone, which is basically nature's antidepressant, did you know that you need zinc, you need vitamin D, you need cholesterol, you need fat, you need all of these factors coming together in this beautiful cascade to make cholesterol, as to make hormones. So you are going to be a nightmare to hang out with if you don't eat good quality fats because you can't make hormones. So like, you know, in the integrative space, so the beautiful doctors that we work with in a shared care approach at Culture Wellness, the doctors that we work with, and certainly one of the doctors that I've interviewed in this space, they don't want your cholesterol to be under 5.5. They want it to be a bit higher. So you're making hormones, you're rocking things, you're feeling awesome. Your brain is made out of 60% fat. You will feel stupid if you are on a low-fat diet. Brain's made of fat, hormones made of fat. Body loves being in that ketogenic space and utilizing fat. And so let's move past the cholesterol thing. Let's be done with it and let's really embrace eating good quality fats. If your liver function is low, if you're showing signs of fatty liver, psoriasis, those kinds of things, then it's not the fat that's going to cause the problem. It's the sugar and the carbohydrates and the infection and the inflammation. So let's find out why. All right, that's really, really important. Okay, all righty. So yes, April, I get my teacher voice on and have like, do you get this? And so I hope it sunk in. It was funny when yesterday at the netball carnival when I was talking to the girls and like we're in between games and they're so tired. They played like, 5 games and they're all looking off and they're not listening to me. And so I'm just laying it out step by step. Come on, girls, you can do this. Oh, Marion learnt that from Dr. Livy Weaver's course. That's so cool. I love Dr. Livy Weaver. She's amazing. Okay, so yes, we all grew up on a bad diet, unfortunately. So if your roadblock to starting the Culture Wellness ketogenic diet is because your doctor has told you to go low fat, time to get a new doctor and time to keep up with the current literature. So I hope I've covered that one off. All right, let me have a look at my next things here. Wild versus ferment. Oh, here's a cool one. Kids on keto. So yes, kids can be on a ketogenic diet and we just need to make changes to that. And kids, they burn glucose a lot quicker than adults and they make ketones far more effectively than adults. So say my ketogenic diet that I currently practice at the moment is really different to say Noah's and really different to Maya's. So Noah, my boy, is 14. He is in ketosis a lot for his cognitive function. But he's an active kid and he does, lots and lots of sports and stuff, even though he tells me he hates it, but he still does it. And so he burns through carbs differently to me. I'm still super active, but I don't burn them as much. So he needs more than me. And then my daughter, Maya, she burns through carbs beautifully. It's just her body is really metabolically flexible because we got onto her problems sort of quite early on. And so she had some significant issues when she was around 6 months and 1 year old. And then after that, she really just took off. And so she can have quite a lot of beautiful whole food carbohydrates, and she can have some dates, and she can have a banana and all these different things. She can have them when, she's got a full netball carnival, or when she's running races, or when she's doing certain things. So kids absolutely can be on a ketogenic diet. I think it's wonderful for their learning, their hormone health, their development, puberty, cognitive function, learning, brain balance, all of that kind of stuff. But we can't assume that it is the same as an adult. So yes, I, in the initial stages, tested my kids' ketones to find out these answers. I used the breath machine because my kids didn't want to have the pin pricks, which is fair enough. I hate that too. And so, yeah, we just measured it. And then I got to the point that I really understood it. So with this much amount of exercise and sleep, this is what the kids need, and so forth. They still use exogenous ketones. So my kids will have MCT oil. They'll have, collagen, and they'll have different types of, say, MCT oils, like powdered MCT oils, in their hot drinks in the morning. So I know that they're getting ketones in, and I know that they've got, that beautiful cognitive ability. So yes, you can have kids in ketosis. Alrighty, let me go back to my notes. We're getting through everything. We've gone into the muscle strength. Now, this is just a quote that I saw in one of the comments, and it's not so much a teaching sort of point, but I loved it so much. Someone had written there, I look forward to spending my money on fermented foods rather than specialist appointments. Man, I love that comment. I think it was someone called Dill. There we go. There's the garbage truck. So I think a beautiful lady called Dill, popped it up there. And look, I just can't agree with that comment anymore. So I find it hard when I find it hard when people say things like, I can't afford to start fermenting, or the jars are too expensive for me, or, it's a lot of money, or we place restrictions on ourselves when it comes to money for good food, or for fermenting, or choosing organic, or all of these kinds of things. We place restrictions on them. But then we will easily go out and spend a fortune on a specialist that's going to sometimes not help us. And we will spend a fortune on pain medications, or we'll spend a fortune on a big screen TV, or on cars, or on lots of things that we don't need. And so if your health is not awesome, your highest value of where you spend your money and time should be on your health. It should be your highest value. And so it's very easy to allocate resources in your life to that when that is your highest value. So I told you guys before, we had to sell our house and do all sorts of things, for our family to get back to where we are now. And yes, it was horrible because we had to sell our house and blow all of our savings and borrow money and all of this kind of stuff. But now we're not in this Noah being in a home and having to pay for the home, which is what was going to happen to him. We don't have to see constant specialists and psychologists and speech therapists. And I don't have to be taking, Maya to special cognitive retraining and brain training and all of these things that we would have had to do had we not moved forward with that. I don't have to be on pain. I mean, the amount of money I would save on pain medication per month would easily pay for the MCT oil, and easily pay for my ferments, and easily pay for all of the things that I love to buy now. Easily paid for my Zazen water filter, or my water filters on my showers. Now, it takes time to build up these resources of things that you need to add into your life. You can't just go out and get them all at once. It took us ages to start and build from that. So, this month that we bought back then, it'd be okay, well, this month we're going to buy a shower filter. and this month we're going to do this, and you go slowly if you need to. But it's really, really, really important to keep highlighting those priorities and those values in your life. And these things are not expensive. When you look at how expensive colonoscopies are, endoscopies, gastro specialists, endocrinologist specialists, all these specialists cost a fortune. They're like $500-$600 a pop. And you could have bought a new Zarzan water filter, and you could have made significant changes to your life. So let's make sure we're shaping that. Okay. Powdered MCT oils versus liquid. Liquid MCT oils are MCT. So liquid MCT oils are just the MCT oils that we sell. So the Melrose ones. Powdered MCT oils, there's a couple of like coconut milky kind of powdered MCT oils. There's a couple of brands like the name escapes me now, but they have macadamia MCT oils, and there's a few. I'll write it up in the comments. I can't think of the brand now, but like sometimes if I'm going out on a hike and I don't want to carry liquid MCT oil, then I get those powders. They're really readily available now, so I'm pretty sure that Javita would probably have them. My local health food store has them. So those powdered MCT oils. Okay, let's keep going. Di, you would have spent a fortune on your health. Some of you may have heard me tell the story, so I'm sorry if I am revisiting this, but I literally had the most amazing lady come and work with me, and she was single, and she was in her 30s, like early 30s, and she had spent over $80,000 on her health with having endo issues. $80,000. Like, that just blows my mind. Like, one specialist to the next, to this drug trial, to the next drug trial. She was no better. She hadn't improved at all. And then she did the Culture Wellness program, working specifically with me. She did the tailored one-on-one program. And like after the 6 months, she was off all of her medications. She was not in pain anymore. She didn't have any endo pain. All the inflammation had gone. And the poor dear girl had spent all this money on her health, and she didn't need to. And it just made me so mad. Yes, the brand is Lacaco. And so sometimes I give the kids the Keto Adapt one, which is the Lacaco brand. There is a macadamia flavor in there that I've spoken to the company about, and they assure me that it's a good quality natural flavor. But I would certainly not give that to someone who is in the Culture Wellness program, so doing the Kickstarter program, and certainly not for kids that have got cognitive, functions or behavioral issues or anything like that, because, their systems are so sensitive that even a good quality natural flavor that it is derived from a natural product can maybe still cause problems. So, but they've got some pretty cool products, which is very, very cool. Alrighty. Yes, Sue, so you can get the powdered MCT oil. So we've just talked about that. Let me see. Sorry, I'm just going through these questions to make sure that I have answered everything here. So many awesome questions. Thank you, everyone, for popping this in here. Just wondering how this kind of keto diet would fit in with pregnancy breastfeeding. Yes, so that one is, a wonderful opportunity just to book in a consult with one of the Culture Wellness naturopaths, so either Jade or Gabby, and we tailor our Culture Wellness therapeutic ketogenic diet to a breastfeeding mum or pregnancy. So we add more carbs in, we up, different types of nutrients. So there's lots of beautiful vitamin A going in, and liver pates and B vitamins and so forth. So yes, we can absolutely allocate and work with that, and it does fit in, especially for lowering that inflammation, but you need to do it guided by us so we can help you with that. Okay. Oh, Monica, your culture delivery's on the way. That is so awesome. So stoked you guys are getting into it. And I saw Susanna said that she'd like, oh, I've bit the bullet. I've ordered my cultures. That is so, so cool. All right. I'm just going through your questions here, making sure that I'm getting into all of them. Okay. That's a great question. Someone has written there, just wondering, and I love this. I love how curious you are. Thousands and thousands of years ago, they wouldn't have had MCT oil. What would have they used instead? So that's such an awesome question, because no, they didn't have MCT oil, and they didn't have, ketone machines, and they didn't have all of those things. But what, from an anthropological standpoint, and listen to my podcast that I did with Cindy O'Meara. I think it's actually episode 2 in the Culture and Curiosity podcast. Cindy and I look at the ketogenic diet from an anthropological setting. And, that was actually Cindy's first degree before she went and did nutrition, was looking into that sort of anthropological perspective of culture and food. And I, have read a lot about this area as well. And what I find really, really interesting is, yes, like when in traditional times, when we were more nomadic and we moved from space to space using resources from the land, we would go into ketosis as we would move across the land because there wasn't much food available. Our body would tap into our fat stores and burn energy, burn up those fat stores and be in ketosis rather than burning glucose from, back there would have been berries, or it would have been honey from the tree, or tubers out of the ground. And so when we're looking at how is the ketogenic diet utilized, in traditional times, it was moving through to a different space. It was used. And it was also used in the winter time. So the summertime, you would eat the honey, you would eat all of the berries, and you would actually store excess glucose on your body. You would store fat on your body. And so during the winter time, when there wasn't all of that availability of glucose, your body would burn all of those fat stores. So you wouldn't need MCT oils because you would just not have food around, and you would just not eat, and what we call now fasting, for about 3 or 4 days. Then the body would get into ketosis, and then you wouldn't be hungry. You'd be burning what's on your body, and you'd be utilizing ketones. Now, that's not the case now. There is definitely not an issue with scarcity of resources anymore. There's definitely not an issue where we're going to need to move into a different space and not have access to food. Not for everyone. There's certainly lots of people that don't have access to food. For the majority, especially the majority of Australians, but of course not everybody. And so we use MCT oils now so we can kind of get into ketosis, but we can still have everyday foods. We can use it for exogenous ketones for brain function. We've got all these awesome ways that we can now use those ketones because we don't live a nomadic life. We don't live a life that goes with the winter and the summer. We don't live a life that completely depends on our seasons and completely depends on the environment. So that's kind of how it was back then, and it's very, very different to now. But I've loved it. I've loved learning about, that anthropological setting and the ketogenic space and how it was used beforehand. And it was certainly used beforehand also when, the body was under threat, or the body thought that it was about to go into famine, we would eat, if we were preparing for a famine, and then we would store everything. So our brains are still very much the same. We haven't evolved any much further than that. So if we don't eat, if we starve ourselves, if we restrict our calories too much, and if we do this all the time, which is most women, unfortunately, if we do that all the time, this inbuilt set point within our brain that is so ancestrally driven, we don't even have control of it. It is our inbuilt nervous system. If we keep telling our body we're in famine, there's no calories around, there's no resources, there's no food, if we keep telling our body that by our choices of starving ourselves, then we store fat because we're expecting a famine and we're expecting that there's not going to be any food around. And so we want to store the fat. So then when there's no food, then we go into ketosis and we start burning the fat. So I just cannot begin to tell you how many women, me included, many, like a long time ago, that I, you can only have 1,200 calories and, you've got to fast and you've got to do this and you've got to do that if you want to keep the weight off and if you want to be like buffed at this age or, a lean percentage of body fat and all of these cultural norms that are just disgusting and so horrible for poor, female psyche. But if you do that to your body all day long, your body starts believing that it's in famine. And this is why people say all the time, I'm eating less and I'm exercising more and I'm getting fatter or I'm getting more inflamed or there's more of a problem. And the reason is you are telling your body it's not safe. So last night we talked about that with regards to that HPA axis, and we talked about it with regards to that amygdala part of our brain, which is the part of our brain that modulates, are we safe or not? And so if you keep starving yourself, if you keep restricting calories, if you keep doing too much fasting, your body is going to store. And, it's going to, if, you need to lose inflammation in your body, you need to lose weight, you are going to be upset and angry and it's not going to be working for you. Okay, so, cool. So you guys are talking about the xylitol and the stevias, and monk fruit. So that's all right. Looks like Jade's got that under control. So yes, we go over fasting in our programs, and everyone fasts. So there's all this conversation all the time around, I've got to be fasting. I've got to, do a 5 and 2, and I've got to do this fast, and I've got to do that fast. And there's so much conversation around it. And we forgot to be really appreciative, and we forgot to remember that all of us, unless you're having a midnight snack, which my kids seem to think is the best thing ever on the planet, that you'd have a midnight snack, all of us fast. All of us. We go to bed and we don't eat from when we go to bed until we wake up in the morning. Boom, you have successfully fasted. So congratulations. Every single person that's listening right now is already fasting. You're nailing it. So you don't need to make too much of a big deal about it. On program, we like people to fast for a little bit longer to give their digestive system a break. So they might fast for 12 hours. They might fast for 14 hours. And so all that means is you finish eating at 6 o'clock and then you start eating the next day at 8 o'clock. You've just fasted for 14 hours. So let's not get too hung up on the fasting and the times and all those kinds of things at this point, because you're already doing it. You're already nailing it. We don't need to, I've got to fast for a whole day and I've got to do OMAD and I've got, too confusing at this state. Let's just start low and slow. Okay, so like many of you who are just writing there, I've got to go and do school pickup. So do I. I've just realised the time and I've got to get Noah very, very soon. So I better fly. But the other thing that I wanted to quickly say before I go is book your discovery calls. We're having so much fun meeting up with everyone and seeing people joining on to the one-on-one program. It's really, really awesome to see people joining and getting started. And also you'll receive an email because I don't know what happened. I don't want to know. Computers are computers. But basically, one of the options for joining our cooking class was going through to a wait list. And so people were getting a message saying that the class was full. And it's not. And I'm so sad because I want you guys to join the class. That's the whole point of me recording the thing, is because I want you to actually join it and learn. I would be very sad if no one joined because I've put so much work into it and I want you to learn from it. So if you are having trouble joining the cooking class, and specifically that option 2, which has got your cultures in it and all of the things that you need to join, like to make at home, we've fixed the problem. Hooray. So you would have got an email to say the problem's fixed and a link to that. And Candace put up a post just before in the Facebook group as well with a link to joining the class and the fact that it's all solved. So class, we let everyone into the Facebook group and we let everyone into all of the online learning and to the videos for the class on the 6th of June. So get yourself sorted out and make sure you join so I know that you're learning all of this stuff and you're getting support and help. So that's all my public service announcements, I think. Oh, and also the next time I tap in with you guys will be to look at the actual programs, the culture wellness programs. What are they? Behind the scenes, what modules, what do we teach, all of that kind of stuff. So, and then Gabby and I and Elisa and Alicia and Jade and Lily and everyone will be jumping in here to answer any more questions that you may have along the way. So make the most of the time while we're here to support you whilst this workshop's open. Because when the Facebook group closes, then we're off and racing and helping all the people that have joined our program. So yeah, use us up, access us while you can. Oh, mold testing. We do mold testing, Kath, but I would highly recommend you book a consult with us because we don't know what to recommend because we don't know what's going on with you. But we do all the mycotoxin testing. So book in a consult. All right, everyone. Have an awesome afternoon. I'll catch you later. See ya.